Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hello, Fearless Freedom family. So it's Memorial Day weekend. At least it will be the day after this episode is released, and a different kind of Memorial Day. We definitely are still paying homage to our fellow citizens who have sacrificed and served in the armed forces, and remembering those who have made the ultimate sacrifice on this Memorial Day. The other thing is that this Memorial Day is different in that we are still in the midst of this situation where a lot of us are still sheltering in place and practicing social distancing, etc. There's still a lot of fear that is surrounding us, surrounding the situation. There's fear of the unknown. What will happen when we stop sheltering in place and when we stop social distancing? Will there be a resurgence of this virus? Will there be a resurgence of infections that will occur or new cases that will happen? Will children be able to go back to school in the fall? All these things are kind of question marks at the moment. What will this summer be like? Yeah, this is a question my children ask me. They're wondering, what's summer going to be like? We've been kind of isolated, and how are we going to, now that we're not going to be going to camp and we're not going to be doing those things, what is our summer going to look like? So these are all the things that I've been thinking about. I don't know if you've been thinking about these things or not, but it's kind of Memorial Day usually marks not only that time when we dedicate some thought, some processes where we say thank you to those who have served in the armed forces and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice, but it usually is the beginning of summer. Yes, I know. It is not June 21st and 22nd, which are officially the beginnings of summer, but it is that symbolic beginning of summer. So when families get together and they have barbecues and cookouts and they just spend so much time celebrating the fact that the weather has finally broken and now there's going to be warmth that's going to be upon us, at least those of us who live in places where we have the change of season. So there's so many things to reflect on this Memorial Day that, we may not necessarily have thought about before. We think about our mortality, we think about our safety, and we don't think about it in the terms of war, like what our colleagues in the armed forces have fought hard to protect us in and from. We think about it in the safety of our families. We think about it in the safety of our livelihood, the progression of things during this crisis. So just some thought, nothing major. I don't really have anything terribly profound to share, but this is something I was thinking about. I do, however, want to say that I am very grateful this weekend for a number of things. I am grateful every day for the fact that I've been blessed with another day of existence on this planet. I have a family that is healthy and happy, and I am in a situation where I can follow passions, follow dreams. Now, I am also very grateful this weekend because I had the opportunity to get on a virtual stage this weekend, you guys. So remember, I'm trying my best to keep up and let you guys be aware of all the things that are going on in regard to facing my fear of public speaking. And so here is another instance where I was given an opportunity to get in front of an audience. And the audience was probably about maybe 300 or so individuals. And it was for the Smart Wellness Retreat. And it was a retreat that was put on for African-American women. And it was a free gift to them to help to edify, encourage, and amplify their voices. And I was given the opportunity to be the kickoff speaker, and it was awesome. It was really fun. It was a lot of fun getting back in there and sharing content. Of course, I talked about fear. I talked about how you can take fear and turn it into fuel for achieving your greatness. And it was such a fun talk to deliver. And even though we weren't in the same room and we weren't able to have that additional feedback that comes between the audience and the speaker when there is a, kind of a nonverbal as well as a verbal response that is exchanged, I still felt as though I was present in the room with those 300 people. And that helped me to deliver an even more engaging and empowering talk. And so I'm super thankful for the organizers of the conference, and I'm extremely thankful for the opportunity. So in case you're wondering if you can see the talk or see the conference or be part of it, yes, you can. What I'll do is I will drop the Eventbrite link in the show notes. And I will also let you know that you can go to the Facebook page for Smart Wellness Retreat. That's MASSMART Wellness, WELLNESS Retreat. And you go to that on Facebook and check it out, because a lot of the talks, not all of them, but a lot of the talks are on there. And there have been some incredible ones. So there was mine, which of course I'm partial. But then right after me, there was Dr. Dooley Chang, and she did a phenomenal job talking about, metabolism and weight control. And then there was a phenomenal talk also given about finances. So, these are great for everybody, but it's targeted towards African American women. And it is such a great gift that this organization is giving to the community, because it brings us together. It has us talking about the pertinent topics, and it's a great opportunity for us to get an opportunity to give back to our community. So just sharing that with you guys. Another step up the ladder of facing this fear. And I promised I would always keep you updated. And so here you are. That's the most recent development. So anyway, back on track. Let's get back on track. So today we have Brian Bradley, and Brian is going to talk to us about asset protection, asset protection. And he deals a lot with, high income clients. So he'll deal with doctors, lawyers, engineers, investors, et cetera, et cetera. And he talks a lot about how this particular situation that we're in can pose some dangers, to our potential assets, right? People going after them. So very interesting talk. And he does a deep dive into his own fears, which I loved. And so, yeah, definitely take a listen. It's definitely one that you want to basically share with a friend, and you also want to go to your favorite listening platform, give us a 5-star rating. You want to leave a positive comment. And of course, I appreciate all the love. I really do. Because the more love you give the show is the more it'll be able to be heard by other ears besides your own, right? So why not share it? Why not share the love? Friends, share with friends the good stuff that they encounter. So there you have it. All right, y'all. Have a great one. Hello, Fearless Freedom family. Today, we have none other than Brian Bradley, and he is going to tell you all about himself and what he is up to.
Thanks, Dr. G, for having me on and, putting the podcast together. And just, for who I am, I'm a asset protection attorney for high-risk professionals, like your doctors, dentists, entrepreneurs, business startups, real estate investors, and higher net worth families. So we really, the goal when we do what I do is trying to give clients peace of mind and know that their assets are safe from rainy days. Let them be able to sleep easy at night knowing they're financially secure. I also work as a chief knowledge officer for law firms, helping them maximize their value and integrating technology. I have a big background of trial experience, and I was selected to Lawyers of Distinction list 3 years in a row, Super Lawyers Rising Star list, nominated to America's Top 100 High Stake Litigators list, and a bunch of other lists and nominations and awards. So it's just really about, for me, peace of mind, and coming from the litigation background, I just want to help clients and people get ahead of being sued in bad, rainy days, and how to keep what they got.
Awesome. So, interesting, right, that you've mentioned litigation, because obviously that is something that is top of mind for people who are practicing. So whether you're practicing medicine, you're practicing, I don't know how much in dentistry, but I know for sure in medicine, and even breaking it down in areas of medicine, you have your liability can be a little bit higher than others. And so that is something that we think about. And we are in the midst of a storm right now, right? So we're in the midst of a storm where sometimes, and I don't know if this is going to be what's going to actually happen, but we may get to a point where the resources that are available from the anesthesia standpoint, from the emergency medicine standpoint, is depleted or becomes depleted. And then we'll have to call on colleagues from other areas to step in and help out. Can you speak a little bit to how that wrinkle might play a role in how things go forward?
Yeah. So, I guess you're talking about like how COVID is going to trickle down potentially into liability is kind of where you're, no problem. And so what we're going to see here on the liability side is there's going to be a lot of what's called like casualty claims. And so, and it's going to be, like even medical doctors, business owners, and it's just going to be essentially like a negligence claim. And so the key in any crisis first is just to weather the storm. What's obvious is that, as income goes down without expenses going down at the same amount, then you're going to start depleting assets. And so income's most likely out of most people's control, except, for example, like my wife working at a hospital, her income's going to be stable during this crisis. But not all doctors, not all investors, not all business owners are going to have that same luxury. So what you do have some control over is your expenses. And so what's critical is your assets and your hard assets, because those give you the ability to stabilize and reduce. As your income reduces, they give you the stability that you're going to need to weather out a crisis. So you have to protect those. And so what we're looking at, like I said, at different legal bar associations and in the litigation arena with the current crisis going on right now, is a substantial rise in casualty claims. There's going to be employee claims and organizational claims. And they're going to be alleging negligence from, like failing to protect a customer or an invitee, especially if a death becomes involved, failure to diagnose, misdiagnosis, negligence from there, wrongful death, unintentional transmissions, and more. And what we're hearing now is insurance providers are not sure how to potentially cover doctors for off-label uses of drugs or treatment, and especially for COVID, because it's so new and changing like every half a day.
Yes.
And you're already starting to, and you're already starting to see wiggle room from the insurance providers saying, well, now that, the World Health Organization classified as a pandemic, we don't have to cover it, and we're not going to cover it. And the same thing with business insurance. They're starting to find wiggle room out of saying, okay, well, this is a pandemic. No one's planned for a pandemic, so we're not going to cover you for what you thought you had coverage for. And so as you start going through this, you just need to start thinking about ways to mitigate and decrease your risk. And that's just going to be asking yourself certain business questions of, for example, if I own an apartment complex, have I given notice to all of my tenants? Have I provided wipes and sanitation, daily, even more than normal, on hotspot areas, for hospitals, just making sure that you go in masked up and not transmitting the disease. So there's a lot of things that you just have to start taking about on. Lawsuits are going to happen. You can't stop lawsuits from happening, especially in recessions, all lawsuits, people just start suing left and right. but you can take these mitigating steps to think about where's my liability, where's my risk, assess your business plan and structure, and start taking those potential lawsuits off the table.
So you mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned that you can do things like, well, for us, it's kind of, I guess, sort of simple in that making sure that people who are providing care or in the care setting have what they need as far as, masks and gear. But you also mentioned business owners. Like, for example, I'm just thinking like a lot of businesses right now, which are brick and mortar, are having to do pivot points, and they're having to, have some kind of virtual product or some kind of digital product. How are they going to protect themselves from potential litigation? Like, how are they going to do that?
I think certain things are, for example, not sending people or employees out to hotspots.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Or just almost everywhere. Or if you're working with vendors, making sure that the vendors aren't going in contact with other people, if you can, that have COVID or potentially do. You're going to have to really think through your business model. If you're a restaurant owner, you're going to have to space out your tables and maybe do less table turns and expand your operation hours to get the number of tables that you come in to mitigate the negligent claims of exposure. And so that's what you're gonna have to start doing. And it's gonna be a business by business model plan that you're gonna have to sit down with a professional to do and say, here's what we're currently doing. Here's where our potential, let them tell you where your potential risk is, and then brainstorm ideas to come up with a new way to operate. Just going digital online, everyone's gonna have to find a way to do that, but also people are gonna be in contact with other human beings. It's just the way the world works. So it's just gonna be a matter of, providing potential sanitation, doing everything that you can reasonably do to mitigate and decrease in exposure, so that if you were to be sued for a wrongful exposure or negligence claim, you did everything per the health boards and codes that you can do to say, well, we're not liable for this.
Wow. It's so interesting because, you just don't think about that kind of stuff.
Don't think about these things.
You're like, oh, okay, yeah. Everybody's home anyway, but wait, or everybody's not home.
And everyone's not home now, and people aren't going to be home forever.
Right. And there's some essential people that have to be out there working, to collect the garbage, to
your general labor,
your mail going through the system. There are people out there still working.
Exactly. And so that's where asset protection comes in. Some of those you can do on your own, but then, when you really want to protect yourself when a lawsuit does come, what asset protection, what I do does is creates that barrier as a last resort. And then it levels the playing field for negotiations and puts you in a position of strength, or to make lawsuits just go away. Because, and like I said, you can't stop a lawsuit, but you can determine how collectible you actually are. And like anything, law firms or businesses, and if there's no collectability or the profit's not worth the expense, the lawsuits go away.
Right. Wow. Interesting. So now you basically have a clientele that is like the people that listen to Fearless Freedom, right? So you have a clientele that are, high income earners. They are professionals. What kinds of things, like if you were just to give some basic advice, so you mentioned, some kind of tangible things that we can do, right? So what kind of things would people need to kind of get in order if they were preparing to, say, for example, consult with someone like yourself? Like, what things should they be thinking about putting together?
Yeah. So one, just realize it's going to be a personal financial talk. So you're going to have to be comfortable talking to your lawyer. If you're talking to a lawyer, you're going to be covered with attorney-client privilege. So you're going to have to be open and honest with them first. And you're going to be talking about your money, your debt, what you own, where you own it, how you own it. Without being comfortable to have those personal conversations with the lawyer, there's nothing that we're going to be able to do to help you, because we have to know, especially when we're trying to protect what you have, we got to know what you have and how you own it, and your whole financial story. So first, get comfortable having that conversation. Have a good understanding about your dollar and cents, where you own things, how you own them before you call, because that's the whole conversation. Like I own a house in whatever state and my mortgage is this amount and I have this much debt on it, or I own it in cash, I own it in my personal name, or I have it in an LLC. And just understand how you structured your life and be ready to have that conversation. And then the next part is, whether you're a doctor and you have your own practice or you're investing, you want to protect yourself by separating out liability, which means you want to have use and enjoyment of things, but you don't want to have things in your own personal name. You want to make it hard for someone to collect on you. So, you just have different tools in the toolbox. And then as we go down the roads, each tool is a little bit stronger as we start adding more layers and moats to our castles, that we have. And so it's like start with an LLC when you're small, and then you go from there to a management company, which then would own those LLCs. And then from there, you bring out the big guns asset protection trust, and those can be either domestic or offshore. And depending on the client's need, depends on where we go with the clients.
Wow. And so here's another question for you then. So you mentioned LLC, right? So, have you found that for the typical person, I'm not talking about somebody now who has multi-million-dollar assets. Maybe they're just starting out, maybe they're just getting out of dental school, just getting out of medical school. And maybe they are at the point where they've purchased a home. Right. Are you suggesting that maybe they may start thinking about that type of thing at this point, putting the home under an LLC versus in their own personal name? Or are we talking about when you have developed more assets before you start doing something like that?
That's a good question. So your home, your personal home, your residence, you never want to put into an LLC. Because you don't want to affect your home ownership tax benefits and credits and all of that. You can put them into a trust, which isn't going to affect those, but you never want to put your personal home into an LLC, because let's say you sell your house 5 years down the road, you're going to automatically lose that $250,000 credit.
Right.
So it's not worth it, but you can put it into a trust. And then it's going to be partially protected depending on the type of trust you use, if you use the right type of trust. If you're just coming out and you're just starting, my first advice would be don't buy anything. Clear up your medical debt. Kind of Dave Ramsey it. Because if you don't have all that debt and you can just suck it up for 2 or 3 more years and clean up your debt, then think of all that money you're going to have 2 or 3 years later to then start investing. So you'll be in a stronger position if you can just suck up the pain a little bit longer and get debt free. Once you buy that first asset, not your house. Your house isn't an asset.
Right.
Let's just clear that up. It's a liability. It's your liability. You have a mortgage on it. It's an asset to a bank. And we already talked about why you don't want to put it into one. When you buy your first property, investment property or anything, something that can go boom, a plane, a car, a boat, and you're a doctor or an investor and you have a lot of visibility and you can lose something, start with an LLC. They're great starting points. They're affordable. They offer some limited, personal liability. But like I said, it's in the word limited. So it's not going to be the silver bullet. There's no such thing as a silver bullet, but it's a good, affordable starting point. And you're going to get insurance. Insurance is your first layer. Okay. The LLC's the next layer from there. And then let's say you add another property. And so you have 2 or 4 investment properties. You're going to add another LLC to split up the equity in them. Okay. Because if you put 4 properties into one LLC and one property goes boom, then you just affected and tainted every other asset that's in there.
Interesting.
So if the idea is to protect what you have, you can't stop an exploding asset from exploding. But what you can do is mitigate the damage it can cause to everything else. And so as you're investing in real estate, let's say, put them into an LLC, limit how many properties you put into an LLC. Then as you start getting 2 or 3 or 4 properties, it gets a little hectic to manage individually like that. You put all those LLCs into a management company. That then streamlines the tax filing so your CPA doesn't hate you. It makes it easy. It just makes it easy to manage. You separate out the liability in the LLCs. You put all those ownerships into a management company. That one management company files one tax return. All the K1s of the LLC go straight through there. It makes it a more simplified program. System.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Then let's say, 5-6 years, you're established, you got your debt down, you have a few asset producing companies, you may be doing some in syndication investing with other friends. Life starts picking up, you have more liability and more risk. That's when you need to come in. You probably are close or hit that $1 million net worth mark. You come in with asset protection trust. The asset protection trust, I like to use a Cook Islands protection trust just because it's the strongest jurisdiction in the world for over 40 years. I mean, it's the gold standard. We use them for most of our doctors and investors, but we use a hybrid. It's called a bridge trust. It's both domestic and foreign. So you get the benefit of both worlds, and it's a little bit more functional to use. But the asset protection trust is the big guns because that will own that management company. You're the beneficiary of the trust. The trust owns that management company. That management company owns the LLCs. So now you have multiple tiered, staged up protection. And now say, you have a malpractice suit, over $1 million claim amount. You're scared. You have a lot of stuff that you can lose. That lawsuit can wipe you out. And now who knows how you're going to start. That bridge trust, because it's connected to the Cook Islands, has what's called statutory non-recognition. That means we don't recognize any other country, states, or jurisdictions, court orders, or judgments. Go pound sand. You have to sue us here in the Cook Islands.
Got it.
And so that's the different layers that we can go with the protection systems for higher risk professionals.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's nice. I like that. I like how you presented that because, people listening to this are at different stages. There are people who are just starting out, like I said, just fresh out of training school, and are, trying to get their feet wet in their professional careers. And then there are those who are mid-career, and then there are people who are, further on than that. So that's very helpful. You mentioned a couple of things in there. So you mentioned that, when you're going from, having one property to multiple properties and such. And you also mentioned that, you don't want to have more than a certain amount under a particular umbrella just to kind of spread out your liability, I guess. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So I guess for me, the thing that I'm curious about, and I mean, I don't know if this is something that you're experiencing in your own life, but is there any fear associated with diversifying or even taking that first step to buy the first property or,
Yeah, I think that fear is part of it. It's just like anything. You go into medical school, you're excited, you take your boards, and then learn law school even. You go and take the bar, and fear is part of it. You just have to overcome the fear and go on from it. And some people are going to get paralyzed by it, and you're going to be stuck. The other people who jump and aren't paralyzed by fear, you'll succeed or you'll fail. It doesn't matter which one happens. If you fail, just learn from it. Why did you fail? So don't let that fear and that failure stop you from the next. It's just a learning curve. Like I'm sure everybody has failed an exam or lost in a sport or whatever. You just keep going. It's the same thing in life. And so I would just say, you're going to have the fear. Don't think it's ever going to leave. Even if you make it big time and you're making tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, every deal will be exciting, but there's still going to be the trepidation.
Absolutely. No, well said. Yeah, you're right. The fear doesn't ever go away. It's just a matter of what you do with that. How do you channel that energy? Do you let it cripple you? Like you said, some people do, or are you just going to jump and then wait for that parachute to open up on the way down? Right.
Yeah. No, I mean,
and if it does it, you just learn from that experience. Okay. Well, don't jump from that building, jump from a different one.
Exactly. Like I came out of law school at the worst time, 2008. Like the economy crashed. There were jobs. Like I was supposed to be hired as the next district attorney where I was out of law school, and they're like, "Hey, sorry, no jobs. Hiring freeze for 3 years." Like, what am I going to do? So then I had to go and find a way to get into court. And so, my whole life has just been about, not failure to launch, but just working around major world geographical and, economical problems. And I could have been paralyzed by fear by most people and just not, practice law, but I had to just jump into court and do it on my own. And so I was representing clients for free for 3 years, literally for free for 3 years. And I would go to state agencies and be like, hey, you need all these clients, no one to work on them. You just cover those court costs. I will do this for free. And I did that for, no joke, 3 years. And so I had so much trial, and that's where I got all this, notoriety because of what I was doing. But my whole point of it was I didn't let things out of my control hinder me. I just realized, here's my goal. I'm going to fail. I have no mentor. I have no one to teach me. There's a bunch of books. I'm going to live at a library and I'm going to figure this out. Same thing with investing. Like, no one taught me how to invest. No one's going to teach you guys how to invest, and you're going to have to make your own numbers and your own decisions. Just don't let the fear stop you.
Love it. That's a great story, by the way. That's, I mean, cause like people talk about it all the time. Like, they're like, look, when you're doing something, when your back is up against the wall, it's like you are either going to stay there or you're going to do something that's going to push you forward. And, a lot of times we have this false sense of an idea that, we have to have success immediately. But you describe 3 years of sacrifice before.
Because I just look at, I look at it I look at long, it's like, okay, I have to have a short-term plan, but I have long-term goals. And so my goal, I never lose sight of my goals. And then my goals, just as I reach a goal, I set new goals and new levels and new ceilings. So I'm never complacent, but if something fails, great. I just learned something. Failure means learning. And, I think because I was, a good athlete and, just was that drive of, premier athlete is just, okay, if something bad happened, forget it, move on and keep going.
Absolutely. And speaking of adapting and pivoting, how are you? So I guess the first question would be, for your line of work, is it more virtual encounters, or are you having to physically be somewhere? So then the question is, if it's, whichever way it is, how are you pivoting during this time? Like, how are you?
Yeah. So it's a good question because I have to do both. Okay. So my business structure, I completely, about 3 years ago, created a different type of law firm to where I implemented fully all technology to cut down costs and overhead. And I use independent contractors, and then I would affiliate with other firms who have been around for a very, very long time as basically my other attorneys that I would hire, to where I wouldn't have to carry overhead. So I just learned how to build a business around working affiliations with very successful people. And then we just utilize each other's strengths. Oh, cool. Then I don't have overhead, and we're just paid off of projects that we worked together on versus having to carry a payroll. So that's one thing I did. Then when I have to go to, and then all asset protection is transactional. So we're just do virtual meetings. I represent people in this aspect all over the world and nation. And so I'm not going to be flying all over the world just to say hi.
Right.
So emails, technology is amazing now. People are very comfortable on that aspect. When going to court, up until about a couple of years ago, courts have been very, very hesitant to implement technology. So they want you in court. They want you personally filing the documents and the pleadings. Now, over the last 3 years, you've noticed almost all the courts have adopted to utilizing technology now. And now they're being forced right now. They have no choice. People have lawsuits. People are being sued. People are being criminally prosecuted. They have to process these cases, and they have to do them safely. So now the courts are forced to implement all the technology into them, and they're catching up. And so now we're doing a lot of like conferences and Zoom arguments and hearings, from home. So unless you actually have to go to court for a specific type of hearing or ruling, there's only a few ones where you actually physically need to be there. They're limiting that, and it's causing the legal field and the courts to be more efficient now because they're using technology. The companies and businesses that don't, you're going to be replaced by people who are comfortable with technology, because this is now the new world that we're going to be living in, and it's forced upon us. So if you're not willing to modify and adapt and pivot, you're not going to survive. So don't close your doors. Just start researching or hire consultants to talk through your different strategies that you need to come up with your business to modernize.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's huge. That is a wake up call for sure. I know that there are people who are listening who are, on the fence. They're like, wow, I don't know how to pivot. I'm not sure. Should I digitize my business? Should I have a product that is in the virtual space? But yeah, you nailed it. Like that is the way to go. And you're right. You don't want to be Blockbuster, right? You don't want to get Netflixed. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Like, you really don't.
No, you're gonna get replaced, and there's always a way to bring in your business digitally, whatever it is. I mean, even look at restaurants. How now there's a lot of takeout.
Yes.
Versus before. So they're finding ways to survive. If a restaurant who you're used to going to, sit down at is able to keep operating, you can find, if you're in retail, a digital way to, keep businesses going. And then as we get the economy back up, you're just going to social distance until we get the vaccines and that we need, which just limit the number of people that come in and make sure they stay, a certain amount of feet apart and have their sanitation stations in heavy trafficketed areas and do your part. That's the thinking that has to go into it. And you don't need to have the answers. So don't like, oh my God, I can't even think about all the questions. That's why experts exist. Think about, read, Google, get all of your thoughts and questions, then look up different consultants, and then don't be a penny wise, dollar stupid. They're going to help you make money and modernize. So just realize that's an investment. And it's a business expense. So talk to your CPA. Use your experts.
Right. Yes, indeed. Oh my goodness. All the things. Yes. No, that's awesome. So funny. Because, as you're saying that, I was just thinking about the other day I went into our local supermarket. So it's Kroger. And, I hadn't been out in a long time because I basically only leave the house to go to work. And so I happened to have gone to the store after work one day, and I was in there and I was like, oh, so all the things that you mentioned, the adaptation that had to happen, like literally there was a worker who was at the front who was wiping down all the carts. And, and then that person was properly covered, like mask on and everything. And then when you go into the store, there's an overhead announcement that happens maybe like every, 30 seconds or something that says,
it's scary at the store now.
They're like, oh, please be mindful. You stay 6 feet away. I was like, oh, this is great. And then they had like traffic directions on the aisles. So there were some aisles that was like, oh, this is a unidirectional aisle, stop, you're going the wrong way, just to try to limit the, side encounters. So no, you're right. If you're
big partition at the
at the checkout
area, like you're at a bank now, and
absolutely.
It's just it's an adaptation. Great.
Yes.
This is going to be a new norm for a while, and they're figuring it out.
Yeah.
Same thing with every other business.
Absolutely. So, when you said that, I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. The people who are forward thinking and the people who are going to, thrive at the end of this are making those changes and are pivoting in that way.
Well, and I would say the ones that are at home listening to this and saying like, man, I just, I don't know how my job's going to go forward in the future, is find your job and what you like. And I'm pretty sure that there's a telecommuting or online version of doing that job. And if your company is not going to progress to that, don't wait. Just start looking. Hedge your bet, But I'm pretty sure that whatever you're doing, unless you're roofing or doing construction, there's going to be something that you're going to be able to do if you're a business professional in that world, and working from home. So just start being proactive.
Absolutely. Reinvent yourself so that you'll be on top at the end of this. Awesome. Oh my goodness. I can't believe we've been talking for so long. Such a great conversation.
I don't even know how long we've been going yet.
It's like almost half an hour.
I can keep talking forever. That's my job.
Oh my gosh. No, these are some really great pearls. And this one is a personal question. What do you think the biggest fear is? Now, you had some big fears that you overcame. I mean, you got out of school and you got into a situation where it was quite a bit of uncertainty, because what you thought was certain was no longer that way due to the economic climate. Is there another fear that you have faced during your business journey, during your life that you'd like to share, and then share some insights as to how because you have a tendency to just kind of face it and do it and then learn from lessons that failed. So
I have a bunch. That was the tip of the iceberg.
How was it?
Before that, when I went to college, I went to Arizona State to play baseball as a pitcher, and I was, being looked at by Oakland and the A's, and my arm just went out, crapped out.
Okay.
And I didn't care much about, I'm smart, obviously. And I knew enough to just like, I have a good memory. So I can like C's get degrees. I just need to get through here to go play professional ball.
Gotcha.
So I wasn't really applying myself in college because that wasn't my path at the time. And then my arm just went out. And that time there wasn't much technology, in 2000, and it was like, 2001 and 2002, technology wasn't there to just like do quick fixes on shoulders and micro tears and stuff like that. And surgery wasn't that big of a thing. It was long-term recovery. And after my arm went out 2 times, it was like, all right, my career's done.
Oh, goodness.
What am I going to do? And I had such a deep educational hole I dug myself in that I was just sitting here like, my God, I'm not going to go play professional ball. I neglected school because I didn't even care. What am I going to do? So I had to reinvent myself and I was young going to college. So I was 19 and 20 at that time. And I had to reinvent myself with an A-type personality, ego-driven, starting pitcher of the best team in national, baseball.
Right.
Way to be like, all right, what am I going to do now? And I had to turn myself into an academic. And I just turned that fear of I'm so far behind into living at the library, and I like majoring in philosophy and psychology. And I bought like, every book in the world and just was like, no one's going to outsmart me. Watch this. You want to call me a dumb jock. I'm going to show you what I can do. And then that turned me into a scholar and academic. And then, went to law school and, then the economy. And then I got jerked around from the economy from law firm to law firm because it was great. You're great at trials. And we're not. We have this case we need you to help us with. Oh, well, now we don't need you anymore. Thanks for fixing our law firm and solving our problem. I would just keep getting shucked out the door as like a janitor, clean up our mess and goodbye.
Oh, gosh. That's horrible.
The owner pulled me aside and gave me great advice. He's like, you're a really smart guy. You're us who created all these big firms young. Don't be afraid to stick your neck out. Rely on yourself, because then you don't have anybody have to depend on, a paycheck from. You have it. Just stick your neck out. And from that moment on, I just realized you're right. Like, I'm not going to spin my wheel making other people money. I'm not going to be afraid of failing. If I fail, just learn from it. And I think just that whole road of adversity of my life just made me, like, I'm hesitant of fear. Like, I process through all the measures and, of it. And I just make educated decisions. I think that's what anybody else should be doing, is just process it through, weigh and measure everything, have a plan, have a backup plan, realize all those won't work out. So just be flexible. Be flexible.
Yeah. Yeah. No, sometimes a backup plan doesn't really work like you would think it should.
And it is a great idea and it's something to fall back on, but like life generally goes like, hey, that my A plan didn't work, my B plan, like, it partially got me through the, wading in the water. Now I just need to, sink or swim. And so you just got to start swimming.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. No, that's great. All right. So now the show notes will have your information in it, but just in case someone's listening right now and they don't have access to that, do you mind telling everyone how they can reach you and how they can reach out to you?
Yeah. Jump on my website, www.btblegal.com. I have so many videos and educational information on there for people to walk through, watch about asset protection and brochures and pamphlets, the different levels of it, frequently asked questions, and probably every question you have on there, because I just like to educate people. And so I would say that's a great resource there. And then you can always email me, Brian, BRIAN at btlegal.com. And I used to do paid consultations, but I don't like it. I just let people call in and ask me questions and email me, because I think you need to and not be afraid of saying like, oh, wow, I don't want to talk to a lawyer because I don't want to pay $150 or $200 consultation for an hour of something I may or may not do.
Right.
Get the consultation, like go over everything, go over what you may need, may not. Think about it. Ask the questions, get educated, go talk to another firm. You may like what I do, but you may want to find somebody cheaper to go and do it. Then that's not great. I just want you to be comfortable and educated and not afraid to talk to an expert.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, no, so that'd be great. Like I said, people are going to see the show notes, but thank you for going over that because that's helpful, particularly if someone's listening in their car or something like that, then they can know to go back and reference that. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So are you ready? Because, we're at that part of the show where we go and we do our fill in the blanks. You feel like you're ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, awesome. All right. So the first one is fearless freedom. To me, fearless freedom means.
Oh, fearless freedom to me means not being afraid to fail and take control of your life.
Awesome. Awesome. The next one is, if I am fearless, I will.
If I'm, what was that last part of it?
If I am fearless, I will.
Control my outcome.
Okay. Okay. And then the last one is, my battle cry is.
My bat cry?
Your battle cry. Like, what are you gonna?
Oh,
what is your Braveheart saying? I love that. I love that. Oh my gosh, you're the first person that has done an actual battle cry.
Yeah.
So thank you. That's actually pretty fearless and brave. Yeah. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Brian, for taking time out of your
a verbal one if you don't want the battle cry.
Oh, no, I love that. I think that's great. If you have a verbal one, go ahead and let us have that one too. Absolutely.
Yeah, improvise, modify, adapt, and overcome. If you follow those military principles of life, like you'll be able to take it by the horn and do whatever you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great conversation. Thank you so much for your time. And yeah, absolutely.